From the earliest moments of human awareness, when the night sky was more mystery than map, people looked upward and imagined that reality itself was layered. The heavens were not a single empty space, but a vast structure, rising level by level above the earth. This idea of seven skies appears again and again across civilizations, not as a coincidence, but as a reflection of how humans try to understand order in the universe. The number 7 carried weight. 7 visible celestial bodies moving differently from the stars. 7 days in a week. 7 directions when the center is counted. The sky became a ladder of meaning, not merely a physical dome. In ancient Mesopotamia, the sky was envisioned as a series of realms ruled by powerful forces. The stars were not distant suns, but living signs, and the planets were wandering authorities, each occupying its own level of the heavens. To look up was to read a coded message from above. Each sky was closer to the source of ultimate order, and the higher one ascended in imagination, the purer and more dangerous the realm became. Humans belonged to the lowest layer, where dust, breath, and time ruled. In Islamic cosmology, the concept of 7 skies takes on a profound spiritual depth. The Quran repeatedly refers to 7 heavens, not as a poetic exaggeration, but as a structured creation. These skies are described as layered, protected, and purposeful. The lowest sky is adorned with stars, lamps placed both for beauty and for guarding the cosmic order. Beyond that first sky, human perception fails. The higher skies are not accessible to sight or instrument, only to understanding, reflection, and faith. They exist beyond measurement, yet they're described as real, deliberate, and governed by divine law. What is striking is that these skies are not presented as empty. Each level has function, presence, and meaning. The universe is not a silent void, but an organized system, stacked like chapters of a book that humanity has only begun to read. The 7 skies are not simply above us in space. They are beyond us in nature. They suggest that reality may have layers that coexist, each obeying laws unfamiliar to the one below. Ancient Jewish mysticism also speaks of multiple heavens, often numbering them as 7. Each heaven is associated with different beings, processes, and spiritual states. Some are linked with judgment, others with mercy, others with divine knowledge. In these traditions, ascending through the skies is not a physical journey, but an inner transformation. To rise is to shed limitation, ego, and ignorance. The skies become metaphors for consciousness itself, stages of awareness through which the soul may pass. In Christian thought, echoes of layered heavens remain as well. The Apostle Paul speaks of being taken to the 3rd heaven, a statement that only makes sense in a worldview where multiple heavens are already assumed. Medieval scholars debated the structure of the cosmos intensely, combining scripture with Greek astronomy. The Earth sat at the center, surrounded by crystalline spheres, each carrying a planet or the fixed stars. Beyond them lay the highest heaven, the realm of pure presence, untouched by decay or time. Across these traditions, the skies are not random. They form a hierarchy. Lower skies are closer to material existence, movement, and change. Higher skies are associated with stability, power, and ultimate truth. This hierarchy mirrors human experience. We live in layers as well. Physical sensation, emotion, thought, intuition, and something deeper still. The idea of 7 skies may reflect an intuitive understanding that reality is stratified, not flat. Modern science, surprisingly, does not entirely dismiss this layered vision. While it does not speak of skies in a spiritual sense, it reveals a universe built in levels. Earth's atmosphere itself is divided into layers: troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere. Beyond that lies space, structured again into regions dominated by gravity, radiation, dark matter, and forces we barely comprehend. Even reality at the smallest scale is layered, with particles beneath particles, rules beneath rules. The lowest sky, in many traditions, is the one we can see, It is the sky of clouds, winds, storms, and stars. It is the sky that inspires fear and wonder, the sky that delivers rain and disaster, the sky that marks time through the motion of the sun and moon. This sky feels alive because it directly touches human survival. It is close enough to influence crops, travel, and fate. It is the boundary between Earth and the unknown. Above this familiar layer, imagination begins to stretch. The second sky is often described as a realm of forces rather than forms. Here, movements are no longer weather but power. Ancient thinkers associated this level with the moon and the control of cycles, tides, fertility, growth, and decay. Time itself seemed to breathe here, expanding and contracting in rhythms humans could feel but not command. As the skies rise, language becomes weaker. The third, fourth, and fifth skies are rarely described in concrete terms. Instead, they are hinted at through symbols: light, fire, sound, vastness. These are realms where angels, intelligences, or governing principles are said to operate. Whether understood literally or metaphorically, the message is the same. The universe is not chaotic. It is administered. Something maintains balance. Something prevents collapse. The sixth sky is often associated with proximity to ultimate authority. It is near the edge of comprehension, where individuality dissolves into purpose. In mystical accounts, reaching this level is overwhelming. Identity begins to blur. Fear and awe merge. The traveler, whether prophet or mystic, realizes that knowledge has a cost. To know more is to surrender more. Then there is the seventh sky, the highest, the most concealed. It is rarely described at all, because description implies limitation. This sky is often associated with the throne, the source, the command that says be, and reality responds. It is not a place in space, but a level of existence beyond comparison. Nothing ascends past it. Nothing contains it. It contains everything else. What makes the idea of seven skies so enduring is that it refuses to reduce reality to a single layer. It insists that what we see is not all there is. Whether interpreted spiritually, psychologically, or cosmologically, the message remains powerful. Existence is deeper than appearance. The universe has structure, meaning, and perhaps intention, layered above us in ways we are only beginning to sense. This belief shaped how humans behaved. When the sky was layered, actions mattered. What you did on Earth resonated upward. Justice, cruelty, humility, arrogance. These were not private acts, but disturbances or harmonies within a larger system. The skies watched, recorded, responded. Life became significant because it echoed beyond the visible world. Even today, when rockets pierce the atmosphere and telescopes peer billions of years into space, the sense of layered mystery remains. Each discovery answers one question and opens 10 more. We find boundaries everywhere: event horizons, quantum limits, cosmic walls. The universe keeps revealing that beyond every known layer lies another unknown one. The seven skies, then, may not be outdated mythology. They may be an early human language for a truth science is slowly approaching. That reality is stacked, ordered, and far more complex than a single surface. What ancient people called skies, we might call dimensions, realms, or levels of law. The names change, but the intuition persists. When traditions speak about the seven skies individually, they are rarely meant to function as simple geography. Each sky represents a threshold, a change in rules, a shift in how existence behaves. The first sky, closest to human experience, is the realm of visibility. It is where motion is obvious and consequences are immediate. Clouds gather, winds collide, stars appear and disappear with the night. This sky teaches impermanence. Everything within it moves, forms, dissolves, and reforms. Ancient observers learned to read this sky like a living manuscript, predicting seasons, dangers, and opportunities. It was the classroom of survival, where knowledge meant life. Beyond this visible ceiling lies the second sky, a realm often associated with control rather than appearance. In many cosmologies, this level governs cycles. The moon becomes its symbol, not because of romance, but because of regulation. Tides rise and fall. Bodies respond. Biological rhythms align themselves to forces unseen but undeniable. This sky is quieter than the first, less dramatic, but more influential. It does not announce itself with storms. It shapes life subtly, patiently. Here, time becomes less linear and more circular, repeating patterns that bind generations together. As thought ascends to the third sky, structure begins to dominate over rhythm. This level is commonly associated with order, measurement, and balance. Ancient philosophies linked it with planetary intelligence, believing that each wandering star carried not just mass, but instruction. The idea was not that planets ruled human fate directly, but that they reflected a deeper mathematical harmony woven into existence. The third sky was the realm where chaos began to submit to design, where randomness revealed underlying law. The fourth sky often appears as a dividing line between what might still be grasped conceptually and what begins to exceed comprehension. In many mystical traditions, this sky is associated with guardianship. It is described as protected, sealed, or watched. The implication is clear. Not all knowledge is meant to be accessed freely. Beyond a certain point, awareness requires transformation. To approach higher skies without preparation is to risk collapse, like exposing fragile eyes to unfiltered light. In symbolic terms, the fourth sky represents the boundary of the ego. Below it, identity is stable. Above it, identity becomes fluid. This idea appears again and again in mystical experiences across cultures. Those who claim to have ascended beyond this threshold often describe a loss of self, followed by a reconstruction on different terms. The sky is no longer above them. It is within them. The observer and the observed begin to merge. The fifth sky is rarely described directly. When it is mentioned, it is done with restraint. This level is often associated with pure energy or command. It is not a place of discussion or debate. It is a place where decisions manifest instantly as reality. Some traditions describe this sky as filled with sound rather than light, suggesting vibration as the fundamental substance of creation. Others describe it as light so intense that it erases form altogether. Whatever language is used, the meaning is consistent. Causality itself behaves differently here. Modern physics, in an unexpected way, echoes this idea. At fundamental levels, particles do not behave like solid objects. They exist as probabilities, waves, and interactions. Observation changes outcome. Cause and effect blur. Reality becomes responsive. What ancient thinkers described symbolically as higher skies may correspond to layers of reality where the rules we rely on simply no longer apply. The sixth sky is often portrayed as proximity. Not proximity in distance, but in authority. This is the realm closest to the source of power, law, or will. It is here that many traditions place the greatest beings, not as individuals with personalities, but as functions. They are not characters in a story. They are mechanisms of existence itself. Justice, mercy, preservation, destruction. These are not moral concepts here, but operational principles. Descriptions of the sixth sky often carry a sense of overwhelming clarity. There is no confusion, but also no comfort. Everything is known, but nothing is negotiable. This level strips away illusion completely. What remains is truth without softness. Mystics describe this state as terrifying and liberating at the same time. Terror because there is nowhere to hide. Liberation because there is nothing left to defend. Then comes the seventh sky, the most guarded concept of all. Nearly every tradition that speaks of it does so indirectly. Silence becomes the dominant language. Metaphors collapse under their own weight. The seventh sky is not described as light or darkness, sound or stillness, space or time. is described as beyond. Beyond sequence, beyond opposition, beyond comparison. In Islamic descriptions, the seventh sky is associated with the ultimate boundary, beyond which creation does not pass. It is near the throne, a symbol not of sitting or location, but of absolute authority. The throne represents command itself, the principle by which existence exists. It is not inside the universe. The universe is inside its command. The seventh sky, therefore, is not the top floor of a building, but the edge of created reality. This idea finds parallels in other traditions as well. In Jewish mysticism, the highest heaven is associated with direct presence, not intermediaries. In Christian theology, it is the beatific vision, not a place but a state of direct knowing. In Eastern philosophies, it resembles the concept of ultimate reality, where distinction dissolves entirely. What ties all these interpretations together is the rejection of simplicity. Reality is not flat. Consciousness is not shallow. Meaning is not accidental. The seven skies form a map, not of distance but of depth. They suggest that to understand the universe fully, one must consider not only what exists, but at what level it exists. Importantly, the journey through the skies is rarely portrayed as physical. It is moral, intellectual, and spiritual. To rise is not to travel upward, but to refine perception. Each sky demands a cost: humility, discipline, surrender, or courage. Without these, ascent is impossible, not because of punishment, but because of incompatibility. A dense mind cannot function in a subtle realm. In this sense, the seven skies may describe stages of human awareness. The first sky is survival. The second is rhythm. The third is reason. The fourth is transformation. The fifth is creative power. The sixth is truth. The seventh is unity. Whether one accepts this interpretation literally or symbolically, it remains deeply relevant. It frames human growth as layered, structured, and purposeful. In the modern age, we often assume that ancient cosmology has been replaced by science, but perhaps it has been translated instead. Where ancient thinkers spoke of skies, we speak of dimensions. Where they spoke of guardians, we speak of laws. Where they spoke of ascent, we speak of understanding. The form has changed, but the intuition remains intact. The universe continues to resist being reduced to a single explanation. Every breakthrough reveals deeper complexity. Dark matter, dark energy, hidden dimensions, and multiverses all hint at unseen layers shaping what we observe. Science may not call these layers skies, but treats them with the same caution and awe. The idea of seven skies does more than describe the universe. It quietly shapes how humans understand themselves. When reality is layered, the human being is no longer a random accident moving through empty space. Instead, a person becomes a point of intersection between levels of existence. The lowest sky touches the body, the higher skies touch the mind, and the highest skies brush against something deeper, often called the soul. This framework gives human life direction. One is not merely born, lives, and dies, but ascends or descends through states of being. Psychologically, the seven skies can be read as stages of inner development. At the first level, awareness is dominated by fear, hunger, and immediate desire. This is the sky of reaction. Life is something that happens to you. Survival shapes identity. In this state, morality is simple and often transactional. Good is what protects, bad is what threatens. Many never move far beyond this sky, not because they are incapable, but because comfort and habit create gravity. The second sky introduces emotional rhythm. Here, a person becomes aware of cycles within themselves. Moods rise and fall. Attachment and loss shape behavior. Relationships begin to matter deeply. This level brings empathy, but also vulnerability. People living primarily in this sky often feel controlled by feelings they do not fully understand. Love, jealousy, fear, and hope become forces that seem external, even though they originate within. Growth at this level requires emotional discipline, the ability to observe feelings without being ruled by them. The third sky corresponds to reason and structure. Thought becomes the dominant tool. A person begins to question, analyze, and plan. Cause and effect are recognized. Beliefs are examined. This is the sky where science, philosophy, and law are born. It offers power through understanding, but also danger through arrogance. When reason is mistaken for completeness, higher realities are dismissed as illusion. The mind becomes sharp but narrow. Many modern societies encourage people to live almost entirely in this sky. Crossing into the fourth sky marks a crisis. Old explanations begin to fail. Logic alone no longer satisfies. Questions arise that reason cannot close. Who am I beneath my thoughts? Why does meaning matter? Why does suffering exist even when it serves no clear function? This sky is associated with inner fracture and renewal. Many spiritual traditions describe this stage as a death. Identity breaks apart. Certainty dissolves. Without guidance, this stage can lead to despair. With guidance, it becomes transformation. The fifth sky represents creative authority. At this level, intention begins to shape experience directly. A person understands the power of focus, discipline, and alignment. Words matter. Actions ripple outward. Responsibility increases. This is why ancient traditions often warned against seeking power before wisdom. In the fifth sky, desire manifests quickly, and unrefined desire can cause harm. True mastery here is restraint, the ability to act without being consumed by the need to act. The sixth sky strips away illusion entirely. What remains is truth, not as concept, but as exposure. Motivations are laid bare. Self-deception becomes impossible. This level is deeply uncomfortable because the stories we tell ourselves collapse. Pride, fear, and justification have nowhere to hide. Yet this sky is also where liberation begins. When nothing false remains, nothing false can bind. Ancient mystics often describe this stage as unbearable for the unprepared and peaceful for those who had already surrendered. The seventh sky, psychologically, is unity. The sense of separation dissolves. The observer and the observed are no longer divided. This does not mean individuality disappears, but that it is no longer experienced as isolation. Compassion becomes natural, not moralized. Meaning is no longer sought, because it is perceived directly. Language fails here, because language depends on division. Silence becomes more accurate than speech. Ethically, the seven skies create a powerful framework. Actions are no longer judged only by immediate outcomes, but by the level of awareness from which they arise. Harm caused from ignorance is different from harm caused from awareness. Responsibility grows as one ascends. A person acting from the first sky may be excused for selfishness. A person acting from the fifth sky cannot claim ignorance. The higher the sky, the heavier the moral weight. This is why ancient traditions placed such emphasis on intention. The same action can belong to different skies, depending on why it is done. Charity motivated by fear of punishment belongs to a lower sky. Charity motivated by empathy belongs to a higher one. Charity arising spontaneously from unity belongs to the highest. The act is identical, the sky is not. The concept of seven skies also reshapes the idea of destiny. Fate is no longer fixed. It is conditional. What happens to you depends partly on where you are operating from. At lower skies, life feels imposed. Events seem random or cruel. At higher skies, patterns become visible. Challenges are understood as instruction. Destiny shifts from something that happens to you into something you participate in. Modern psychology touches this idea without naming it. Developmental theories describe stages of moral reasoning, emotional maturity, and self-actualization. Neuroscience shows that different modes of awareness activate different neural networks. Trauma can trap a person in lower reactive states. Mindfulness can open access to higher integrative ones. The language differs, but the structure is strikingly similar. Socially, the seven skies explain why conflict is so persistent. People argue from different levels without realizing it. A debate between survival and ethics, between emotion and reason, between certainty and humility, cannot be resolved by facts alone. Each sky interprets reality through its own lens. Understanding this does not eliminate disagreement, but it introduces patience. Not everyone is seeing from the same height. The danger of the seven skies lies in misuse. When people turn the concept into hierarchy rather than responsibility, it becomes a tool of ego. Claiming to be in a higher sky while looking down on others is itself a sign of being trapped in a lower one. True ascent is marked by humility, not superiority. The higher the sky, the less need there is to announce it. Throughout history, the seven skies have served as a reminder that growth is possible, but not guaranteed. Ascent requires effort, discipline, and often suffering. Descent happens automatically through neglect. Gravity always pulls downward. This is not punishment. It is simply the nature of layered reality. When modern science peers into the universe, it does not speak in the language of heavens or skies, yet it repeatedly encounters layers. Space itself is not uniform. It has structure, curvature, thresholds, and limits. What ancient cultures sensed intuitively, science now approaches through mathematics and observation. The idea of seven skies begins to look less like myth and more like an early framework for understanding a stratified reality. The most immediate layer above Earth is the atmosphere, divided into distinct regions, each with its own rules. The troposphere is chaotic and life-supporting. Weather forms, pressure shifts, and turbulence dominates. Above it, the stratosphere is calm and ordered, protecting life from harmful radiation. Higher still, the mesosphere burns incoming objects, while the thermosphere behaves almost like a different world altogether, where particles rarely collide and temperature loses its everyday meaning. Even before reaching space, reality has already changed rules multiple times. Beyond the atmosphere, space itself is layered by forces rather than air. Gravity shapes planets, stars, and galaxies into organized systems. Radiation fills the void, invisible yet powerful. Magnetic fields carve out protective bubbles around planets. At larger scales, dark matter forms an unseen scaffold holding galaxies together. We cannot see it, touch it, or fully explain it, yet without it, the universe would not look the way it does. This invisible layer quietly governs the visible one, echoing ancient descriptions of higher skies influencing lower worlds. Then there is dark energy, perhaps the most mysterious layer of all. It does not pull things together, it pushes them apart. It accelerates the expansion of the universe itself. This force dominates cosmic behavior, yet remains almost completely unknown. It acts everywhere, silently, uniformly, as if existence itself is being stretched from within. Ancient thinkers spoke of a realm where command shapes reality instantly. Modern physics finds a force that does not resemble matter or energy as we understand them, yet determines the fate of the cosmos. At the smallest scales, reality fractures again into layers. Atoms dissolve into particles. Particles dissolve into fields. Fields dissolve into probabilities. The deeper science goes, the less solid reality becomes. Objects are no longer things, but events. Location becomes uncertain. Time becomes flexible. Cause and effect lose their classical clarity. This mirrors the ancient claim that higher skies are not built of matter as we know it, but of principles beyond form. The idea of extra dimensions in modern physics is especially striking. String theory, for example, suggests that reality may have more dimensions than the four we experience. These dimensions are not visible because they are compact, folded in on themselves at scales too small to detect. Yet they are necessary for the mathematics to work. Without them, the equations collapse. This is a direct scientific parallel to the idea that unseen layers are required for the visible world to exist at all. In this context, the seven skies may represent not literal floors above Earth, but thresholds of complexity. Each sky corresponds to a regime where different laws dominate. Below a certain threshold, classical physics works. Above it, quantum mechanics takes over. Beyond that, relativity dominates. Beyond that, theories break down entirely. Science itself encounters horizons it cannot cross with current tools, not unlike the guarded boundaries described in ancient texts. Cosmic horizons are a powerful example. There are regions of a universe we will never observe, not because they do not exist, but because light from them will never reach us. They lie beyond the observable boundary, forever inaccessible. These are not metaphysical limits, they're physical ones. Yet the effect is the same. Reality extends beyond what can be known, and that extension is structured, not random. Even time appears to have layers. At everyday scales, it flows steadily. At relativistic speeds, it slows. Near black holes, it almost stops. At the moment of the Big Bang, time as we understand it breaks down entirely. There may have been no before in any meaningful sense. Ancient descriptions of higher skies often speak of timelessness, realms where sequence dissolves. Science now finds places where time itself loses definition. Black holes, in particular, resemble the ancient idea of guarded thresholds. Beyond the event horizon, information cannot return. The laws we know cease to function. Singularities represent points where density becomes infinite and equations fail. These are not merely exotic objects. They are warnings. They mark the edge of knowledge. They tell us that reality has levels we are not equipped to navigate yet. The multiverse hypothesis pushes this idea even further. If multiple universes exist, each with its own laws, then our universe is just one layer within a larger structure. The seven skies, in this light, could be understood as nested realities, each containing and being contained by another. The highest sky would not be a place, but the framework that allows all possible realities to exist. What is most compelling is not that ancient people predicted modern physics, but that both arrive at the same conclusion. Reality is not simple. It is layered, hierarchical, and partially inaccessible. Knowledge has limits. Observation has consequences. Some truths require more than tools. They require transformation in how we think. This realization brings humility back into science, just as it once grounded spirituality. The universe is not something we stand outside of and analyze fully. We are embedded within it. Our instruments extend our senses, but they do not remove our position. Every observation is filtered through the level at which we exist. In this sense, the seven skies become a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern inquiry. They remind us that explanation is always relative to perspective. What appears ultimate from one level becomes partial from another. There is always a higher context, even if it cannot yet be accessed. The idea of seven skies endures because it speaks to something fundamental in the human condition, the sense that life is more than what is immediately visible. Across centuries, cultures, and belief systems, people have returned to this structure not out of superstition, but out of intuition. The world feels layered. Experience feels layered. Meaning feels layered. The seven skies give form to that feeling, offering a map where chaos might otherwise dominate. At its core, the concept answers a silent question every human eventually asks. Where do I stand in the larger order of things? If reality is flat, then existence risks becoming arbitrary. But if reality is layered, then every position has context. Being at the lowest sky is not failure. It is beginning. Being unable to see higher skies is not blindness. It is position. Growth becomes movement, not judgment. This perspective transforms struggle. Difficulty is no longer simply misfortune, but friction between levels. When someone feels torn between logic and emotion, or between desire and conscience, they're not broken. They're standing between skies. Transition is uncomfortable by nature. Ancient traditions understood this and framed suffering as a sign of passage rather than punishment. The pain of ascent is not evidence of error, but of effort. The seven skies also protect against despair. If there are higher levels of order, then meaning is not exhausted by immediate circumstances. Injustice on earth does not imply injustice at every level. Confusion at one sky does not negate clarity at another. This does not excuse suffering, but it prevents it from becoming final. Hope survives not because outcomes are guaranteed, but because depth exists. At the same time, the concept warns against complacency. Remaining in a lower sky when ascent is possible leads to stagnation. Power without awareness becomes destructive. Knowledge without humility becomes arrogance. Ancient texts repeatedly caution that being given access to higher skies before preparation leads to collapse. This is not gatekeeping, it is compatibility. A system only functions when its components operate at appropriate levels. The seven skies suggest that responsibility increases with awareness. The more one sees, the less one can claim innocence. This principle applies personally and collectively. Societies with advanced knowledge cannot excuse harm by pleading ignorance. The higher the sky of civilization, the greater its ethical weight. Technology, without corresponding moral ascent, becomes a force of imbalance rather than progress. This framework also reshapes the idea of success. Ascending skies is not about accumulation, dominance, or recognition. It is about alignment. A person in a higher sky may appear outwardly ordinary, while someone in a lower sky may appear powerful. The difference lies not in control, but in clarity. True elevation often looks like simplicity, restraint, and quiet certainty. One of the most radical implications of the seven skies is that ascent may not be purely individual. While inner growth is personal, its effects ripple outward. A person operating from a higher level influences others without force. Their presence stabilizes, clarifies, and calms. In this way, ascent becomes contagious, not through preaching, but through coherence. This raises a profound possibility. Humanity itself may be moving through skies. Early human history was dominated by survival. Later eras explored emotion, myth, and belonging. Then came reason, science, and structure. Today, humanity stands at a threshold, powerful in knowledge, yet unstable in wisdom. The tension of this moment feels exactly like a transition sky. Old systems failing, new ones not yet formed. Whether humanity ascends or fractures depends on whether awareness can rise to meet power. Without ascent, technological capability amplifies fear, division, and destruction. With ascent, the same tools could support balance, sustainability, and shared meaning. The seven skies remind us that evolution is not guaranteed. It must be chosen. In the end, the highest sky is not something to conquer. It is something to approach with humility. Ancient traditions insist that the final reality cannot be possessed, only reflected. The seventh sky does not belong to us. We belong to it. It is not reached by climbing, but by letting go of what no longer fits. The power of the seven skies lies in their refusal to simplify existence. They allow mystery to coexist with structure, faith to coexist with reason, and science to coexist with awe. They tell us that knowing everything is not the goal. Becoming compatible with deeper truth is. Perhaps the most important lesson of the seven skies is this: where you are is real, but it is not final. There is always another level of understanding available, another refinement possible, another layer waiting beyond the one you currently inhabit. Reality is patient. It does not rush ascent, but it always invites it.